Good Saturday morning, December 6th here, just a little after 7 a.m. Eastern Time, and I want to go over the latest long-range forecast analysis and talk pretty in-depth about how the blocking patterns at 500 millibars are good, but we really need support from the upper levels for the polar vortex, the stratosphere, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by this, and I think that we have it, and I think we're in a good spot. And I like what we're doing with the MJO as well, because we are really dealing with a setup in December right now that we've only seen 3 times since 1975. And I'm going to go into that, and I'm going to kind of show you my thought process today. So make sure, hang along, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, share the video with a friend. We appreciate that. We'll get in right to a quick synopsis here of just the latest. Over the next couple of days, we've got a clipper system coming in yet again here in the central U.S. It's going to bring a nice swath of snow through Iowa, northern Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan. We've got snow showers ongoing up across the interior Northeast as well. And again, there's a lot of snow going on across the northern tier, and that's just really due to the current pattern. All right, so let me go into here and kind of show you just a future radar here throughout the day today. We'll slow this down a little bit, and you can see this clipper system starting to materialize and organize here as it's going to move across Iowa tonight into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. And this is by 11 p.m. midnight tonight. You can see a delineation between rain and snow, really riding along 74 here across Illinois, and I-80 as well. Really, I-80 is a good separator there for some good snow just over the next 24 hours. Again, all of these layers are available on Clarity, by the way. This is our platform we use for our clients. This is a 24-hour snow map that updates every hour. It uses a blend of dozens of weather models and try to give you the best possible outcome. You can click on this map. It's a swath of a half a foot of snow tonight across central Iowa. By 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, you've got 5 inches of snow up there in Rockford, and you can kind of see the swath here of where this is going. In between, maybe a little coating, a glaze of possible mixing from northwest Indy, Bloomington, Illinois, over to Burlington, Iowa, Omaha as well. Maybe a little bit of a coating there. So something to keep in mind. The total snow from this system was going to look like this from this particular clipper. It'll, again, stay north of I-70. It'll focus on cities like Waterloo, Rockford, getting into weakening, getting into Lansing and Detroit. All right, so that's kind of a brief synopsis here of the weekend, this system coming into this weekend. I'll show you just quickly. This is the overnight run of the European, and this is a look here at the 15-day snowfall totals. And I wanted to show this because it's loaded with precipitation, or snow, if you will, I'm sorry, really just kind of well north of this particular area in general. It's just very, very snowy up here. And one thing you're going to notice too, there's not any really big coastal storm suggestions or any big Midwest storm suggestions. This is a byproduct of La Nina. Okay, you have a weaker subtropical jet stream. You have an active northern Pacific jet, and a lot of the cold air is bottled up into the northern tier and up into the Canadian prairies and Canada and the Hudson Bay. And this is not totally abnormal for a La Nina pattern. What's interesting is where we're going to go, where we're going in the indications of a more active pattern with the potential for a colder period further south and east potentially as well. I don't talk about that, but there's not really any big storm systems to note the next 15 days. That's the overnight European. I'll show you the GFS model here. That was the overnight GFS. Here's the hour 6Z GFS. I say overnight, it's in the middle of the night. But again, generally you see what I'm saying. It's got a bigger snow system up here possibly or something, but we don't want to get too embedded in on details. A little bit of a colder run, more snow potentially further south. But let's talk about some things here, okay? I want to show you some examples. This is the upper level stratosphere. This is the stratospheric polar vortex. This is the core of the coldest air on the planet. I want to show you something. You see here, a lot of talk about, well, we got to get that Alaskan ridge. Yeah, okay, understood. Let me show you what happens. Here is our next really notable shot of significantly cold air. You can see it right here. It's coming in basically day 7, 8, 9. It's a substantially cold shot of air, right? And you can see just how cold it is here in the continental United States. I'm gonna go right here. I mean, this is, it's crazy cold. In fact, it's 37 degrees below the average from Iowa, Illinois to Indiana. It's crazy cold air, right? This is at hour 186. Here's hour 180, 186 with the PV, the stratospheric. Look where the stratospheric polar vortex is. When you start to get that kind of cold, and you see it down here, you have the tap or the availability from the stratospheric polar vortex to get that cold air. So there's a source region. Yes, there's a block, right? But look at this. Look at when that ridge blast of cold air comes in, that big trough. There's your Alaskan ridge. Okay, you even got a little bit of a P&A. And so what you're doing is you're dislodging that colder air down into the continental U.S. Now watch this. Let me show you something. Watch what happens when the PV swings away out by about hour 294. Okay, the source of the cold swings away for a time. Okay, it doesn't stay cold forever. This is by hour 300 on this particular run. Watch what starts to happen by hour 300. You understand? Source region's gone. We say, well, Michael, what about the Alaskan ridge? Well, let's look at it. Where's it at? Let's go to hour 300. Still there. We do have a ridge in Alaska. So how would we torch it down here? Well, because the PV, the stratospheric polar vortex, has ultimately kind of swung away for a time, right? Now there's other ways to look at this. You could look at the tropospheric polar vortex, which is where we're at here, the 500 millibar. But the problem is when the two are, not totally aligned, if you will. What happens is that if the source region of cold hasn't really bled into the troposphere, and the PV swings away, and you still have this Alaskan ridge, you can get warmer. You don't want the core source region of your polar vortex to swing away. You don't want it to do that, okay? And the reason I say it's because you can lose the cold even if you have the blocking. There's been a lot of talk about that. I want to make sure I explained it. Now, am I saying it's going to get warmer and that no, I'm not. I'm not seeing warm-ups. What I'm trying to make sure, just a quick education piece, is that cold Arctic air comes from the polar vortex. All right. If there happens to be a ridge in Alaska and the polar vortex piece of it is there and it displaces it or dislodges it, yes, the ridge is responsible for doing that. And you can't get one without, you can't get the cold without the ridge. But if there was a ridge in Alaska and the polar vortex was on the other side of the hemisphere, it really wouldn't be that cold. Okay. Maybe it'd be normal, maybe a degree or two below, but substantial high demand cold air like what we're dealing with, that would not be the case. It's very important you track the two. Okay. There's just more to it than that. So I want to make sure we understood that. Here's the day 14-15 European ensemble mean for the temperature departure. Okay. By no means is it warm. All right. It's certainly got a look where, we have a brief maybe moderation in there briefly, and we reinforce cold air. And again, we're back into a pattern that's probably pretty good. I mean, listen, here's the overnight run for the gas weighted heating degree days. Probably gained 15, 16 points. I haven't added it up. Don't care to, but quite a bit colder there on the 13th, 14th, 15th. You have a day in December where you're clocking in at almost 36 HDDs. That's pretty impressive. But you see, we never go below the looks like the 10-year normal. We go below the 30-year normal for a day or two there at the late month. But this is out through the 20th now, above normal heating demand. And a couple things driving this pattern. All right. I want to show you real quick the day 15 look at this, the 500 millibar heights. All right. Again, the North Pacific ridging is substantial. It's critical in this setup. A little bit of a plus T and H look here as well, a little bit of southern ridging. How much of that is really there when you get closer to the period? Well, Yeah, this can be an example of maybe not a whole lot of that. The issue is, I'll tell you, for the lack of storms is the lack of the subtropical jet. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. But nonetheless, this pattern out to December 20th, I think is setting up to be potentially more active. I think we're leading into the potential for more active times here, late December into January. A couple of things that I'm still watching, key indicators: strong negative angular momentum, negative global wind pattern, slower global winds, sets up for ridging and troughing, right? A lot of waviness going on. Good for the whole blocking deal. And then we have this. And this is remarkable. I spent some time this morning trying to look at different years that had similar setups, and I will tell you there's not very many. Now, that in terms of a year like this one, there isn't any. Years that are close. I found 3 going back to 1975. I found 1977 of December, 1989 of December, and 1995 of December. And I'll tell you what, these all look pretty damn close to current model guidance. It's actually pretty remarkable. And so I'll show you this. This is the everything together. This is the all 3 years blended up for the December outcome. Okay, this is the day 4 to 18, 14-day period here from the EPS weekly. Okay, very, very similar. I mean, the only different argument in it is Texas. Does Texas get as cold? You could toss that up, that there's a warmer risk in Texas and, lesser demand in these types of years. Nonetheless, it's a damn mirrored pattern. Then you go in here and you look at the precipitation pattern. It just doesn't get a whole hell of a lot better. I mean, it's dry in here right now. It's much drier than average. If you watch my videos dating back weeks ago, I talked about this. It's wet down in Florida. It's wet down in Florida here. Well, it's wet in the PMW. Well, it's wet in the PMW here. That's why we're going to continue to see an active northern stream and more snow up there. But I mean, you can't draw this up any better. You can't draw it up any better. You go over here to the 500 millibar height anomalies and different climate period. Argue there's some changes, but look at the main features. I want you to look at the trough, the ridge, okay, the bigger trough, and the ridge down here. All right, and you can correlate them. You can even correlate this too. You can see generally these things are in the same spots. The only difference is the southwestern U.S. ridging is a little bit stronger here. Again, climate change, different climate periods. Nonetheless, it's the pattern. All right, it's so. Any modeled warm-ups between now and the new year, I'm just not. Maybe a day or two, maybe. I mean, but you're going to have maybe a period of moderation ahead of a storm or a front, ahead of an Arctic high that comes down. But that's probably not going to get very warm. And you look at this. This is one thing I wanted to show you real quick, is the Arctic oscillation. The Arctic oscillation is one that we do need to see some trends towards the negative here. We don't have a lot of support for a negative Arctic oscillation. That can help suppress the northern branch of the jet and possibly push it a little further south with surface high pressure coming down. So we're going to need to see some help there. Some of the extended model guidance, there's the extended GFS, suggests that happens later into December, early January. The ECMWF Weekly is trying to do the same. I like later into the period, December into January, for better winter storm threats. I do, and I think that's on the table. Here's the CFS Weekly, week 3 and 4. Very, very similar. Okay, very, very similar. In fact, you could argue the pattern gets better after December 20th through the end of the new year, through the end of the year into the new year, for bigger storms possibly up through here. You could argue that. You can see the gradient. You can see the cold supply. You could argue a better pattern coming in this time frame, and I don't disagree. I think that as we start to see, the MJO, the actual phase 8 forcing increasing, maybe a little bit of 1 in there at times. there can be a little bit more in the way of an active storm track. And when you take the years I just showed you and you roll them forward into January, you have January of 78, January of 1990, and January of 96. Again, with the exception of Texas and the far deep south, add some different climate periods in here. But you're very close. You're especially close on the precipitation analog. It's fascinating. In fact, I love this kind of stuff. But I don't know if you guys know this or not. There were some pretty damn big snowstorms in some of these years, especially January of 78. We're not even going to talk about what happened, but it's a blizzard of 78 in January. Some bigger loaded storms, a more active southern stream because La Nina is weakening, all right, and the chances for that jet to maybe try to start to awaken in December or I'm sorry, in January are better. But the 500 millibar pattern is going to be one that may support that, where we continue to see the upper level blocking, the North Pacific blocking, all right, and this horseshoe style block, a little bit of a gradient in the south and east, the trough loaded up here with the colder weather, and you get better setups for snowstorms, winter storms. And listen, I think the cold's there. I think that's a good period between December 20th and January 10th. I do. I think there's going to be some good storms in there. Good cold too. A couple of significant cold blasts. Outside of the one that's 7, 8, 9 days away right now, it's going to be a nasty one. It's going to be a really cold blast of air. All right. So final, rubber meets the road. Final outlooks here for the week 3 to 4 period put out by our team yesterday, sent to our clients. 3 to 4 week outlook right now. Cold. Okay. Couldn't agree more. It's a cold. It's a big blast, another shot of cold air, and probably a little bit more of an active pattern. We've got 443 HDDs compared to the normal of 416. And then this is the 3 to 4 week precip outlook. I think chances for all of you wondering about white Christmas prospects and all that stuff, they're on the table. I mean, they're on the table now, better now than they ever have been, in my opinion. So we'll keep you posted. I wanted to try and give you a little bit more of a technical analysis to things. The fact that another warming is taking shape, elongating, displacing the vortex. It's not a wind reversal or anything like that, but we're keeping it bothered and stretched out. We've got a negative global wind pattern. We've got MJO in phase 8. The SOI is cooperating. The signals point to cold. It's really not it's not a guessing game for me at this point. And even some solar indications of it. So that's all we have for today. Keep you posted. Keep that period in mind into the last 10 days of December, last 8, 9 days of it. Could be pretty fun. So we'll keep you posted.